אוקיי.
אני בשיעור, נשאר אתכם בעוד שעה. אני בשיעור.
Today, Jewish time, as we like it, we're on the 19th of Chesvan, and class today, we're going to take a little bit of a break, just for a little bit. We'll take a little bit of a break from our last subject, which was talking about the connection or disconnection between Sukkot and the Gentile nations. We'll get definitely back to that because I was sent by a good friend of mine. I was sent some moronic video with some American rabbi in Israel dancing around with all these Christians and shaking his lulav. Now, from where I come from, Casey and the Sunshine Band, they weren't shaking their lulavs, they were shaking something else. So I don't know if he should be shaking his lulav exactly on Sukkot. Anyways, we're going to get back to that and show the disconnection between the Jewish people and the Gentile nations represented by the holiday of the Sukkot or Tabernacles. Okay, but we have today, because we're so close, according to the Hasidim, the memorial time for righteous people is not just one day, it actually hangs over for another day. There's 2 days. So we're still around the 19th. Yesterday was the Rabbi Kahane's 24th anniversary, I call it, of his murder. So we're going to have to change a little bit the program this week. We're going to go for a very, very important lesson here. I hope we'll have time today. If not, we're going to do it again because it's very, very important. We're going to get down to the basic, to the bone, to the core, to the root of what the problem here is between Israel, the Jewish people, and the Arab, the Ishmael nation. We're going to get down exactly to see it right up front and close and personal. We're going to understand what has to be done here. We're going to come out, God willing, we're going to come out understanding what the problem is and how we're going to have to take care. I mean, there's different ways to take care of it, but at least we have to know first what the problem is in order to solve something. Okay, so we're going to get right into it, kind of right into it. A few promos here before we talk about it. Vayu chaye Sarah 100 shana ve-20 shana ve-7 shanim shnei chaye Sarah. The beginning, the first verse of this week's portion, coming up in a couple of days, God willing. So the first verse talks about Sarah. She lived 127 years. Now the Or HaChaim HaKadosh says something unbelievable. Unbelievable concept. You're going to have to put on seatbelts for this because we're going to go for a little bit of a curve here. The Or HaChaim HaKadosh, on this week's portion of the week, he says the following. Vayiyu, every time in the Torah that it says the word, uses the expression Vayiyu or Yehi, that is an expression of mourning. That is an expression of something bad that's happened to us. For example, in the times of the king of Persia, Achashverosh, it says Vayihi, in the days, but that it uses the word that the Jewish people were in dire straits. They were about to be killed. In the time of Yonah, it says that Yonah was in the days of Yonah. It uses that expression because the poor guy, he's in the belly of this fish for 3 days. I mean, it's not easy, at least for me. I have trouble even smelling fish. I'm not talking about like getting close to one, but even from a distance I have trouble with them fish. So I don't know, thank God Kodesh Baruch Hu doesn't give me these kinds of tests. Thank God for those because I'd have problems with these. But anyways, so let's go back. Give another example. So we have the concept of Vayihi or Vayiyu. So it says Vayu. It says in our this week's, it used the expression of mourning, of sorrow, of pain. Vayu. Okay. Vayu chaye Sarah. He uses the word vayu, some kind of mourning here, sorrow, pain. What's going on? Every time in the Torah that it uses the word vehaya, which is very similar to vayihi or vayiyu, but it's a different word. Every time it says vaya, it means the opposite, happiness. For example, the same commentator, the Or HaChaim HaKadosh, writes in the beginning of the portion Ki Tavo, he writes the following on the verse: Vaya ki tavo el haaretz asher Adonai Elohecha noten lecha nachala v'rishta v'yashavta ba. He says, when you come into the land of Israel, you should inherit the land. And he uses the word vaya. Listen to this. Put on another seatbelt. The Or HaChaim HaKadosh says the following. He says the following. And we could learn this, in my opinion, we could learn this from a lot of the Rabbi Kahane people, especially. Some are sitting here now in front of me, and some of them are scattered in different places. They really teach us the following concept. What is the concept? The Or HaChaim explains that if a person wants to really fulfill the mitzvah of living in Eretz Yisrael, he has to be happy. If you're not happy, if you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. If you're happy, I guess that's before your time. You didn't know that one? Anyways, the Or HaChaim tells us unbelievable Torah. If you really want to 100% fulfill the mitzvah of living in Eretz Yisrael, you better be happy, because if you're bummed out, if you're depressed, you're not fulfilling the mitzvah like you should. It's an amazing thing. So who better can we turn to look when we see people sitting in front of me? We humble ourselves before a father whose son-in-law and daughter were murdered. And just as the happiness that when you're around with him, the jokes and the good lines that he gives, other people here, it's a tremendous thing. It's one in a million kind of people here that are connected, students, people that were connected to Rabbi Kahane, and they really have this, that even though times are not easy, times are difficult, they have this way of overcoming. We shall overcome. It's a tremendous thing. Back to the Or HaChaim on this week's Parsha, he says the following. Now that we know the principle, so what's going on here? Vayu chaye Sarah mea shana. The life of Sarah, full of sorrow, was 100 years. Why 100 years? 90 years she was in sorrow, because the Talmud tells us that a couple that does not have children, they're in sorrow. If a person doesn't have children, children equals life. Life equals children. If a person goes around, if there are couples that are going around without any children, I mean, it's the saddest thing in the world. Children are life. Grandchildren, great-grandchildren, God willing. That's life. I mean, I know people today, they get married when they're 50, and they try to have a cat and a dog, not too many, not a kid or something, but whatever. But according to the reality, according to truth in life, it's not so. Kids are life. So for 90 years she didn't have a kid, I understand. But what's with the 10 more years? Check this out. Or HaChaim says it's unbelievable. A Gewalt Torah here. He says that as long as Ishmael was with her son Yitzchak, she was not able to be happy. Which means, even though Yitzchak, after 90 years, she goes ahead and she has a baby. She has Yitzchak. But because he's with the evil father of Ishmael, because he's with them, there is no happiness. So it's an amazing thing. So we go back here. Think about it. We're sitting here today, right? On 19th of Chesvan 5775, we're sitting here and we're surrounded by these Ishmaelim. We're surrounded by these Arabs. And Sarah teaches us the lesson that we can't really be happy even though we're surrounded by them. We can't really be happy because we're surrounded by them. And we know that the mitzvah of living in Eretz Yisrael, to fulfill it properly, you have to be happy. But if they're here, you can't be happy 100%. So think about the conclusion to that one. Bow, bow, bow. Okay, so he says an unbelievable Torah here, that until they tossed him out, and his mother to boot, until they tossed both of them out, there was no happiness. So where happiness was, if we read the continuation of the verse, for 27 years. Sarah lived for 127 years, for 100 years, as long as she didn't have children. And afterwards, when she had a child, but he was surrounded, he was in the same household, in the same confines as Yitzchak, there is no happiness. It was only after they tossed them out into the desert where they belong, send them back where they belong, or, to one of their 24, how many countries that they do have, send them back over there. That's when she became happy. So her happy days are, I'm not going to do any Fonz after we said the happy. I'm not going to do any Fonz imitations, but we'll just pass that one over because the battery's low here. Okay, Mike, you have to forgive me for not doing the Fonz impersonation. Okay, so a tremendous Torah here that we have on this week's Parsha, that in order to there to be simcha, happiness in Eretz Yisrael, there's a need to rid ourselves of the inhabitants here who do not accept us and will never accept us and are trying to get rid of us and kill us, etc. So, God willing, we will see this soon in our times. Kodesh Baruch Hu should give us the merit to participate in this festival. Okay, going on. Okay, we've talked about, now we're getting really into the subject. We're going to get into it. What is the problem here in the land of Israel in our times? And it goes back, it's the same problem. Nothing has changed, as you will see. Unbelievable. It's as if nothing has changed in 4,000 years. We'll see it coming right our way. Okay. First, we're going to go into, there's some guy sitting here who's responsible. He's Mr. YouTube for us. His name's Eleazar. And he's going to be happy that he came today because half of the Shiur is on him, Eleazar. Okay, now we have in Abraham's house, there are two relatives that are living together. Two relatives. You'll never guess it, so I'm going to say it right away. Plus, we're running low on the battery here, so I ain't going to give you a chance. There are two relatives living in Abraham's house. One is Hagar, and one is Eleazar. How are they related? Chazal ask, who is this guy Eleazar? Where is he from? Chazal tell us, according to the majority opinion, there are three opinions, but according to the majority opinion, he is the son of Nimrod. He is the son of Nimrod. Nimrod, after he saw brother Avram get out of that fire, he gave over his son as a prize, as a reward to Avram. He couldn't believe it. He said, well, my son better stick by close to that guy Avram. So he gives his son Eleazar, Nimrod, the evil king, he gives his son over to Eleazar, over to Abraham. Okay, we have to add in here that when I first came to Israel, it really bothered me that there's a company here, a shoe company or a sandal company, I'm not sure, they're called Nimrod. So it really bothered me that why would they name a company in Israel after a wicked person? So I came up with a big limud zchut, something like, to show that, they weren't really thinking badly to name their company after a wicked person. They were probably having a good idea. What's the idea? The idea is the following, folks. Back in those days, Nimrod, he used to walk on the Jewish people. Now, in Israel, 4,000 years later, we walk on him. We step on him. Bow, bow, bow. If you didn't get that one, check it out one more time or ask your neighbor. Okay, so we have the son of Nimrod. Now let's meet Mrs. Hagar. Where's she from? First of all, that's a funky name. I only know one girl that's named Hagar. That's all I know. I know there's this car company named Hagar. Beside for that, I've never heard that name before. You don't go around, oh, my name is Hagar. Oh, my name is Hagar. I know one girl, and one rent-a-car. I don't know if there's a connection, if she runs the rent-a-car company or she doesn't. But Chazal tell us that a very interesting name. The name is in Aramaic, and it means reward. It says Lefum Tsara Agra. The Mishnah says Lefum Tsara Agra. Okay, Hagar, Agar. Same word. It means like when you go pay when you go pay a bill, it's called agra. You know, you go pay for your license. In Hebrew, it's called agra. So we have here. It's in real Aramaic, it's a reward. It's a payment. That's why they call it here a payment. But it's a reward. So what's the reward here? Paro, when he saw what happened to him, I don't know if you remember, not last week, when 2 weeks ago when we talked about Mr. Paro, and he captured Sarah and brought her into the palace. Well, they got all these diseases. I don't know if it was Ebola disease, but it was something similar. They got that Ebola before the Ebola was popular. Anyway, so what does Mr. Paro do? He's the king of Egypt. He gives over his daughter Hagar to Avram and Sarah. Now, who's Paro? We got who Eleazar. He's son of Nimrod. Now, Paro is the son of Nimrod, which means that they are brothers. It means that in Avram's house he has the son of Nimrod and the granddaughter of Nimrod, which is Hagar. Okay, so he has two family members that we never really would think about. Okay, so let's check out how did this guy Eleazar, he comes from the lowest of lows. Okay, he comes from the Canaanite nations. He comes from the people of Ham. Okay, he's like the lowest of lows. And now he's in Abraham's house. And we'll see what kind of guy this guy is. I mean, this guy's all-star material here. All-star material. Let's look at it. Okay, first of all, how long was Eleazar with Avram? Eleazar was with Avram. Anybody have just throw out something you think about. I asked somebody once, and he told me he was with him for about a half hour. I said, why is that? He said, that's how long it takes from the beginning of the portion of the week till the end. That's how long it takes. It takes about a half hour. That's how long he was with. No, believe it or not, a half hour. Okay, I'm going to throw it out because you guys are I see you guys are really excited here. So he was with Abraham for 70 years. 70 years, that's right. He joined forces with Abraham when Abraham was 70 years old, at the time where Lot was kidnapped by the stone people. And Abraham was 70. And Abraham, when he's 140 years old, 70 years later, when Abraham's 140 years old, he sends the same Eleazar to find a wife for his son, Yitzchak, Isaac. 70 years. That's a long time. That's a long time, you know. Okay. Chazal tell us in Breshit Rabbah 59:11, check it out on your own time, not on ours. Chazal tell us that the appearance of Eleazar was similar to the appearance of Abraham. Now, this is a pretty wild thing. Now, people have told me that when a couple gets married, many times look at them, and after many years, they start looking alike. They start looking alike. I have one guy over here, he's shaking his head, yeah. Okay, now I don't know if that means that the wife starts growing a beard and pays. I don't know exactly what it means, but I'm not going to get into it. But I'm just going to say there are some couples that do look alike. And we won't go any further because I have to save myself here. You know, none of these threatening emails or whatever. Okay, so what does that mean exactly? That they looked similar. So Chazal are telling us very simple. The commentators on this Chazal tell us that what it means is what does it mean, the face? In Hebrew, the word face means panim. Face is panim. Also, face means pnim, the inner essence. That's what the Torah is teaching us. The Torah is teaching us not that they looked alike. Of course, they didn't look alike. They were probably different colors. but they were in their inner essence, in their souls, they were similar. That's what it's telling us about. Wow, it's a pretty big thing. A guy to uplift himself from the ghetto, get up from the ghetto. Guy uplifts himself and pulls himself out, not only of the ghetto, he pulls himself out and he's in Abraham. He has a similar soul to Abraham. Shh. I'm surprised you guys are still sitting here. You haven't jumped out the windows. Okay, let's go on over here. It says also in Chazal, it says that Eleazar, he would draw water, and from that water, he would give it to others. That same water, he would draw water from Abraham's well, and from that same well of Abraham, he would give it to others. What does that mean? Check this one out. It means, the commentators tell us, that it means that when Abraham wasn't around, or in different places in the world, Eleazar went around and gave over the Torah of Abraham. Oh, that's an amazing thing. Hello, is Abraham here? I have a few difficult halachic questions to ask him. No, Abraham's not here. He's very far away with his wife Sarah. You know, they're out looking for new converts. But Eleazar's here, no problem. Eleazar, here. Okay, what's your question? Eleazar, exact words. Listen to this, unbelievable. The Torah tells us that he would go to the well of Abraham and he would draw water, and from that same water he would give it to others. It means spiritually that he would take all the Torah, all the words, none of his own. He didn't have a word here, but he would take everything that he heard, everything that he learned from Abraham, and he would give it over to others. He was like, he would go all over the world and give classes, but everything wasn't his own. Everything was, he would bow and prostrate himself and say, this is all, every word for word, this is Abraham's Torah, not mine. Remember those words. Okay, now it's big time. It's big time over here, and it's time for Yitzchak to get married. He's 40 years old, time to get married. Okay, now who would you send? Who would you send? I would send maybe Rabbi Yosef, you know, maybe one of the chief rabbis of Israel I would send, or one of the Kabbalists I would send. No, we send Eliezer. Think about that. Think about that. Avraham, we're going back to the Zohar. Avraham and Sarah, they have together, according to the Zohar Kadosh, they have 1 million people, 1 million converts that they've influenced. So let's say that Sarah did 500,000 and Abraham did 500,000. Abraham has 500,000 students. All kinds of ages, we don't know. But think about that. From all of his students, he picks one guy, and that's Eliezer. Hip hip hooray for Eliezer. He's the guy. Now he tells them an interesting thing. He tells them, listen, I'm going to say it in Hebrew and I'll explain it. He tells them some additional words. Besides for telling Eliezer, listen, I don't want you to take any woman from the Canaanite nations because they're bad news, and a person should stay away from bad news. But he adds a couple of words. Let's listen to the words. Asher anochi yoshev bikirbo. He adds 4 words. That Abraham says, listen, I don't want any of those Canaanite women from the Canaanite nation, or some other woman that is close by my midst. What is that addition, close by, in my midst? We don't see that, for example, when Yitzchak sends Yaakov to find a wife, he tells him the same thing. Don't go for those Canaanite nations, Canaanite women. But he doesn't add the word, those that are close by me, within my midst. So Chazal tell us an interesting thing. Eliezer's mind is going, dee, 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 you know, like smoke is coming out of his ears, and he's hit the jackpot in Vegas. Woo, woo. He's thinking, wow, this is great. I'm I've been chosen out of all these 500,000 people to find a wife for Yitzchak, and I have a daughter the same age. Well, it's a great marriage. I'm the top student. Who's more appropriate than me? So Avram adds the words. Avram was able to chop it. He was able to grasp this, that this was going through his mind. So he tells them, not only am I talking about the regular Canaanite nation, I'm also talking about you, Eleazar, you who are in the closest to me in my midst. That's why Isaac never said that to Jacob, because he didn't have an Eleazar. Okay, now, if I was Eleazar, I'll tell you the truth. If I was Eleazar, I would probably do some kind of trick. I would say, listen, Avram, I tried everything. I went here, I went there, I was in 10 hotels, I was in everywhere. I was in the central bus station, I went to the train station, even though today's a little bit dangerous, stay away from them train stations. But anyways, I can't find anybody. Really, my only advice would be to take my son, my daughter, my daughter. Eliezer, as soon as Abraham tells him, listen to this, unbelievable. Eliezer bends his pride. And he said, Abraham told me, not my daughter, it's not my daughter. I'm going to go on my mission to find a wife. And it says there that it says that Eliezer, he prayed that Hashem would make him successful on this mission. And the musical note on that is called a shalshelet. Why? Because Chazal said that he prayed not once. A person could say, well, you know what, I prayed for you. Well, thank you very much. I only prayed for him one time. You know, instead of praying for him for 100 times, I prayed for one time. Oh, you're a big... Hagar, she's coming out of the palace. She's coming out of the palace. Not easy. It says in Chazal that thousands of people, thousands of women used to come visit Sarah, get advice from her, a blessing from her. What did Sarah do? Listen to this. Sarah would look, and she would see in the corner, with a sad face, was sitting Hagar. Think about it. Here, everyone's coming to visit Sarah. What about Hagar? Hagar is second rate. Everyone's coming to visit Sarah. So Sarah notices that this Hagar is sitting there with a frown on her face. She's not happy. So everybody that comes to visit Sarah tells them, don't come to visit me. Visit her. Visit Hagar. It's an amazing, tremendous act of kindness. And all these women are picking the spirits of Hagar up. In fact, so much so that just like Eliezer would give over the Torah of Avraham, Hagar gave over the Torah of Sarah. Sarah was able to build up Hagar from a depressed girl who had come from stardom, and now she's a servant. But Sarah worked on her. She brought people to speak to her, to give her encouragement. She changed her whole life around. Let's look what she gets. What does she receive as a gift for such kindness that she did. She brings this woman up from depression. You're a slave now, coming from royalty, kingdom. And she brought her up. She brought her back up again. The trueness here. So it's an amazing thing here. So it says the following. Now, after 10 years in the land of Israel, Abraham and Sarah have no kids. The halacha is after 10 years you're allowed to get a divorce if you're in the land of Israel. Because there's a special merit to being in the land of Israel that can give a couple that has no children the merit to have children, which means the same couple, if they were outside the land of Israel, would be with no children. But if they come to Israel, there's a good chance that they could have children. That's the specialness of the land of Israel. Okay, so now 10 years have gone by, and Abraham and Sarah, they said, listen, it's not going here. Let's bring in. Sarah says, you know what? I want to bring in one of my maidservants. I want to bring them, and you get married to them. So who does she choose? We said she has 500,000 students. Who does Sarah choose from all those 500,000 students? She chooses Hagar from all those women. She chooses Hagar. Okay, Hagar and Avram get together now, and what happens? The first time they're together, she does a test and she's pregnant now. What does she do? Check this out, what she does. Every person that we said that a lot of people now also come to her. She gives classes just like Sarah gives classes. So all these women are coming to her, and you know what she tells them in the middle of the lesson? An important announcement here. I want to tell all of you people. You know Sarah, she looks like a very righteous person. She looks like a very, very righteous person. You know, sleeves down to here. She has her hair covered 5 different times, you know. Some of my daughters, they have this, I don't know, it's like the Eiffel Tower on their head. And so like, whoa, it's like big time over here. Going up there. Okay, but anyways, so in the middle of her classes, when she's talking to friends, what does she tell them? She says, you know, this Sarah woman, she looks like she's righteous, but she's not. What? Don't say that. Lashon hara. Whoa. Evil talk. Shh, calm down. I wouldn't. You think I'm going to speak evil gossip? God forbid. I'm telling you that I have a reason for telling you this. Okay, what's the reason? First of all, let me tell you. This woman, Sarah, she looks righteous on the outside. That's true. But on the inside, she's not. She's a hoax. She's a fake. How do I know that? Because look how many years she's been married to Abraham. She's been married to him. They got married. Abraham was 25 and Sarah was 15 years old. Sarah was 15 years old. So they've been married for many, many, many years. Okay, so what happens now? So you see that I was together with Abraham. On the first time, I'm already pregnant. The first time we were ever together, I'm almost pregnant. What does that prove? It proves very simple, that Sarah is not righteous, because if she was righteous, God would have given her a kid. But all these years, she hasn't received the kids. And now you know why. Because she's a fake. She must be a fake, because if she wasn't a fake, Hashem would bless her and Abraham with children. You see me, I'm pregnant after one evening, one night with Abraham. So she's telling all this to her students. And one by one, they stop attending the class of Sarah. Why? Because they heard what Hagar said. So Sarah comes she's used to a full room, you know, thousands of students here. And all of a sudden she sees here and there, places empty. Comes back next week. Maybe some people are ill. Comes back next week. Less seats. More seats that are empty. She's going, what's going on over here? So she asks the people, and they tell her, listen, you know, Hagar's going around bad-mouthing you. She's telling everybody that you must not be as righteous as you look. You must be inside, not righteous. And they tell her the whole story. Sarah gives a big bang on the table. If someone wants to embarrass me, I have no problem with that. But somebody now is taking away my spiritual influence. that is the red light. Whoa, 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 whoa. That is the red light over here. That is the red light. And it has to be stopped. She goes over to Abraham and says, it's time. Okay, we're losing our spiritual influence over other people because of what Hagar is doing. She's bad-mouthing me, and we have to get rid of her. And they get rid of her. Okay. So we see from Hagar, let's go back. First of all, number one. Let's summarize here what we've seen so far. First of all, we see Eleazar, his great point was that he was able to prostrate himself. He was able to bow down. He was able to remove his own ego, his own self, and accept whatever Abraham and the Jewish people said. That was what he would do. That's what he would say. He would not add anything on his own. That's the greatness. That's how he got to be so great. On the other hand, we have Hagar. Hagar was built up by Sarah. What does she receive in return? Instead of receiving thank you and presents or something, she gets a backstab. Think about that one, folks. I'm glad you're still sitting here. Think about this one. What are the Arabs? God forbid that we should have given all this stuff to them. God forbid. But let's just look as it is, reality as it is today. 5775. Look what the Arabs have. Look at their living standards. Look at their homes. Look at their cars. Look at them iPhones, them smartphones, even though they ain't too smart. Look at all this that they have. Where do they have this in any other country? Think about that. And instead of being grateful to the Jewish people, what are they doing to us? They're stoning us. They're throwing fire bombs at us. They're stabbing us. They're running us over. They're killing us. They want to get rid of us. Think about that. Where does that come from? Nothing has changed. You haven't changed a bit. Hagar, Ishmael, the Arabs. That's number one. Number two, we see that as soon as Hagar did not learn the lesson, as soon as Hagar did not learn the lesson from Eleazar, that before Sarah and before Abraham and before the Jewish people, you must eliminate your own opinion, your own self, your own ego. Bow down, prostrate yourself. What they tell you to do, that's what you have to do. Don't become haughty. Don't become your own person. When she didn't do that, that's the time that she must leave. Very interesting. Very interesting. Now we'll understand. Open up your hearts here. For many, many years, I did not understand the words of the Rambam. The Rambam, when he tells us what kind of Gentile is allowed to live in the land of Israel, he tells us that a person who accepts upon himself the 7 Noach laws, he's allowed to live in Israel. But he adds a and then he tells us that a Gentile that wants to live in Israel, he may have personal rights, but he has no national rights, no citizenship. He can't be the head of a company here. No, that's too much. That's a danger to the Jewish people. He can have all of his personal religious rights, etc., but nothing national. But then it says an unbelievable expression which I never understood until I got this message here. And listen, I quote from the Rambam in the Laws of the Kings. He writes that a Gentile that wants to live in the land of Israel, Shelo Yarim Rosh BiYisrael. Where did he come from that? Rambam is not one that throws out funky expressions. Wow, that's a catchy verse over there. Rambam is, like straightforward halacha, potatoes, meat, chicken, nothing, no hors d'oeuvres there. Unbelievable, because that's exactly what we see here. Eliezer became the greatest of greats because he didn't pick up his head. And Hagar could have been that same person. She could have been part of Am Yisrael. And Ishmael, they could have been part of Am Yisrael. If she could have just kept her head down. Just, humble yourself to Sarah, humble yourself to Abraham, and to the Jewish people. If she would have been able to do that, there is an even opinion that she would have been in charge of the 12 tribes. She would have been the mother of the 12 tribes. Think about that one. Instead of having 12 Ishmaelites, she would have had the 12 tribes. Whoa, whoa. Bow, bow, bow. It's an amazing thing. And she lost it all because of what the Rambam understood here. Shelo yarim rosh b'Yisrael. They should not lift up their heads. The Gentiles that live here, keep your head low. Don't make yourself noticed. Don't make noise. Don't complain. You're here. We're happy to have you here. Keep your head low. Okay. Now, are we still okay over here?
No, we have the recording.
Still the recording. Okay. We're still on the recording. We're still going to roll over here. Okay. We're going to try to kick this one off. Rama Mipano says an unbelievable Torah. You're going to have to put on another seatbelt. The Rama Mipano says that where does Hagar really messed up bad. Where do we see that she did her tikkun? She fixed whatever she had made, all the damage that she had done, she fixed it. When do we see that? And when do we see that Ishmael fixed what he did? So the Torah tells us, unbelievable. It says that when Ishmael and Yitzchak, the two sons, when they came to bury their father, Ishmael takes a back seat. And he says, Yitzchak, you're younger than I am, but I've learned my lesson. I learned my lesson to keep my head low. You go before me. Imagine that. You know what I'm saying? Imagine that. You have a star on the stage. He knows that he's the last act. He has to be the last act. Someone comes up to me, is it okay if I'm the last act? Are you crazy, man? I'm not going to let you be the last act. The last act, he's the star. We've been all waiting. The star that you've been waiting for. We've all been waiting for him. Okay, so no one's going to allow you, they have their pride, these stars. They're not going to allow you to one-upmanship them. So listen to this unbelievable Torah here. Chazal tell us that as soon as Ishmael understood the lesson and he bowed his head down and he said, Yitzchak, you are before me. That means that he did tshuva. And now where do we see the Rama Mipano? Where do we see that Hagar? She finished her, whatever she had to do in this world, whatever she messed up, she fixed it all. When did that happen? Listen to this case. Unbelievable. It says the following. Yishai, the father of David, he was a tremendously righteous man. And he was not sure if all of his kids were really Jewish. We're not going to get into it. But there's a problem with marrying somebody like he did from the Moabite nation. And his wife's name was Nitzevet bat Adiel. So he gets married to Nitzevet bat Adiel. And she's from the nation where there's a problem to accept them and to marry them. So he's not sure that he has really any kosher children. So he says, you know what? I'm going to leave my wife. I'm going to leave my wife for some time. So he separates from his wife, not divorced, but separates from his wife. And then he says, you know what? I really want to have at least one kid. So he goes to one of his maidservants, one of his righteous maidservants, and says, listen, I'm going to free you. You're a slave. You're a maidservant. I'm going to free you. And then we'll be able to get married to one another. Okay? Then we're going to be able to get married to one another. Okay. So, listen to what happens. That maidservant runs to Nitzevet bat Adiel. He runs to Yishai's wife, the mother of King David. He runs to her. King David's not born yet. And she says, listen, save me, save yourself, and save your husband from hell. What's going on? Listen,
on such and such date, your husband Yishai, he wants to marry me. I'm pleading with you, please save him, save myself from hell, from punishment. I'm asking you, we're going to pull the Rachel and Leah trick on them. Yeah, I'm going to be at the chuppah, at the beginning ceremony when it's lit up. I'm going to be there. Okay, but when we come home and it's dark, you're going to slip in. You're going to slip in the house when it's dark, and you're the wife of Yishai, you're going to be together that night with your husband Yishai, and he'll never know it. Okay, so they do it, and she slips in, and all of a sudden, after a couple of months, they notice that the wife of Yishai is pregnant. Now, there's only one problem. I told you, we said that they've been separated for quite some time. So there's no way that Yishai's the father. That means that the kid is excuse my language, is a bastard, is a mamzer. So the sons of Yishai, right? The sons of Yishai, they want to kill the mother and the baby inside. Yishai says, no, we have enough problems. We have enough problems as it is. We don't need to have murder on our hands, on the rap sheet. Okay, so what happens? King David is born. And they look at him, and he's redhead. And they said, he doesn't look like any of us. You see, this is proof. This is proof that he's not one of us. So what are we going to do with him? Let's kill him. The sons are saying, yeah, let's kill him. No. We have enough trouble here, with the police. We don't need on our rap sheets murder. I have a great idea, Yishai says, the father of David. He says, I have a great idea. We'll make him a shepherd. Why? The shepherds, you never really see them. For hours and hours, they're out in the fields, and they go in the morning, and they go again, and they have to they have no, they're always out there. Sometimes you have to sleep so the Arabs don't rob, we can ask Avram about that. You have to sleep, around the sheep so they don't steal it from you. We'll never see him, really. We never really see him. So they make him into a shepherd. Only 28 years later did the truth come out. When he was 28 years old, he was pronounced, he was anointed king. Okay, folks, unbelievable. The Rama Mipano tells us that this maidservant, she was the reincarnation of Hagar. She bowed her head. She prostrated herself. She bowed down to her mistress, Nitzevet Bad Adiel. She did what Hagar was never willing to do, to remove her ego, to take a back seat. And she took a back seat. She could have been with Yishai, a tremendous righteous person. And she says no. She learned her lesson. She lowers her head and she runs to Nitzevet Badiel. You're in the main seat. You're in the driver's seat. When she was able to do that, when Hagar was able to do that, that is when she fixed what she had destroyed, in a different lifetime before that. Folks, the bottom line here, the second summary that we have here, is that this is the crux of the issue. That as long as the Arabs are not allowed to live according to the Jewish law, the Torah law, of keeping their heads low, amongst other conditions of commandments, there is no reason to have them here. The solution is the solution. When Sarah saw Hagar, she was not willing to keep her head low. Throw them out. It was a test. It's a hard test. It was a test to Abraham. It was a test to Sarah. But they stood up to it. It's time that we stand up to that test also. Throw them out.